الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So tonight, inshallah ta'ala, today we'll be continuing discussing Al-Arba'in Al-Nawawiyah, and we have reached Hadith Al-Khamis wa Thalathun. So this is the 35th Hadith in this series that is collected by Al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala. And in the last session that we had started discussing this Hadith. So in the previous session or lesson, we had discussed regarding the Hadith is mentioned, and it was read both in English and in Arabic. Then also we did give further takhrij of the hadith. So we mentioned or stated that this particular hadith that is mentioned here with the hadith of Abu Hurairah anhu, that this hadith also is narrated by other of the Sahaba, amongst them Ibn Omar, also and others who have narrated this particular hadith. So we have Ibn Omar narrated hadith, also the hadith of Anas, also amongst them Wathila and other amongst the Sahaba who have narrated this hadith with similar meaning. But then we concentrate regarding this particular narration that is mentioned by the author, which is that of Abu Hurairah anhu, where we compared concerning the wordings that are mentioned here and that of Sahih Muslim, as he mentioned Rawahu Muslim. So he mentioned hadith لا تحاسدوا ولا تناشجوا ولا تباغضوا al-hadith. Then he mentioned the end of the hadith, Rawahu Muslim. So we can somewhat mentioned or went back to the narration that is collected by Imam Muslim in his Sahih. And as we had mentioned that this particular hadith, it is collected by Imam Muslim, but with also various wordings. But of this one, it is mentioned here, the word, وَلَا يَكْذِبُ, it is not in Sahih Muslim. So that wording, وَلَا يَكْذِبُ, that he doesn't lie to his brother, that this is not in Sahih Muslim. So that's concerning takhrij of the hadith. Then we mentioned that regarding this hadith, that the ulama have mentioned the importance of this hadith. And then also we discussed the hadith that it does have different wordings. And we mentioned that there's many wordings of this particular hadith regarding this topic. And also the hadith that they discussed regarding the topic regarding those things that go against the rights that a Muslim have upon each other. So things that a Muslim, that there are certain rights that we should fulfill for each other, and these particular things, it goes against those rights. So then we start discussing the hadith that is mentioned by mentioning certain things. We mentioned وَلَا تَحَاسَدُوا regarding al-hasad, that we should not have envy towards each other, and we discussed certain points regarding envy, concerning what is envy, the different types of envy, and also of the consequence of envy, and also ways of curing of the person who falls into al-hasad. So today, inshallah ta'ala, we'll now discuss other of the points that I mentioned in hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned the second point he mentioned in the hadith, وَلَا تَنَاجَشُوا وَلَا تَنَاجَشُوا. So that will be of the second matter that is mentioned in this particular hadith. So they mentioned al-najas, or najash, that is mentioned in this particular hadith. They mentioned najash, that relates concerning matters regarding al-bay'. So al-najash, it relates concerning matters relating to certain type of business transaction, where they mention that this particular transaction, so al-najash, that they mention al-makar, that the meaning can take on regarding things relating to al-makar, things relating to al-khida, the person deceiving, deceiving others, and plotting against others. So they mention that al-najash, istilahan, that relates to matters of business transaction, where they mentioned that the meaning of al-najash, where they said the meaning is an yazid fi sila, that for a person to increase in the price of an item, man la yurid sharaha, the one who does not wish to buy the item, but he does so as to increase it, so as either the seller, he benefits, and also to put pressure and difficulty upon the buyer. So this is al-najash. So they mention la tanajashu, that for the person not to pretend or make it seem as if you want to purchase an item, but all you want to do is to increase the price. So either the seller will get a higher price for the item, and that the one who's trying to purchase, to buy the thing, that he has to pay more of what the actual, more than what the item actually is worth. So that is a najash. So with najash, as we mentioned, that as for the hukum, that Ibn Abdul Bar rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentioned ajmahu ala fa'iluhu asin lillah, that a person who does of this then is being disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa in kana an-nahi aliman, in kana bin nahi aliman, especially the person is aware of this. So the person who does so and he has knowledge of this, then that person is being disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the ulama mentioned that overall that this practice is something which is haram, that this practice increasing the price upon others, then that is something which is haram to be done. Then they mention the third thing that they discuss, that if a person was to do this to another. So of the other says, so of those things that is mentioned in the books of the fuqaha, that either a person that does of this practice to increase the price upon the one who wishes to have an interest in buying that item, that either he does so and the seller, that they are somewhat there, though that the seller is involved in this. So either the person who's the one who's selling the item is somewhat have plotted and planned with a person that you will come in as a third party in trying to buy that thing. When that person have a customer, so as to increase the price. So it's like both of them have agreed on this, then both are sinful. Because the buyer, or the seller, and the person doing this, that is the agreement between both of them to increase the price on the person who's the customer. So both are plotting this, so both are sinful. That's one case. Another situation may be that the person doing a najash, that is doing it on his own, and the seller is not aware. The merchant is not aware of this. So in this case, it goes back to him, the person who is doing this act. So you have those scenarios that are mentioned. So the next matter I discuss regarding these type of cases, if a transaction was to occur in such situation where a person pretends he wants to buy the item, but his intent is to increase the cost of the item, but at the end of the day, the person who's the interest, he bought the item. The customer eventually bought the item, but at a much higher price than that item is worth. With me? Now, for example, as an example, the item, it is worth what? Say £50. The item is worth £50. Then this third person comes in to the sale, into discussion, and the person then at the end he was raised the item to £100. Then the person who was interested, he still bought it for £100. Is this transaction valid? With me? So is this, at the end of the day, is this transaction valid? The ulama mentioned it is valid. They say it is still valid, because they mentioned that what occur is sometimes, so they said now all the rules we'll discuss, all the rules that have concerning shurut wal arkan al bay'. You have certain conditions. If they're fulfilled, then a transaction is considered to be a valid transaction. So if those conditions were fulfilled, then the transaction is considered to be valid, even though someone acted dishonest. Even though someone acted dishonest. So they said the transaction overall is still considered to be a valid transaction, but the one who did what he did then is sinful, or those that were involved in increasing the price to make it unfair upon the customer and in benefit of the buyer, then that person, the ones who are involved, they are sinful. But because what they did is outside the condition of a valid transaction, so the transaction is still valid, because still the conditions are still met for the transaction to be deemed valid. So it is still considered to be valid, and what the person did that is wrong, so they are sinful for this, but the transaction itself, it is still valid. Of the ulama also take concern that in the case they mentioned that that's the call of jumhur of the ulama, that the transaction is still valid. So they mentioned that majority of the ulama, that akthar ulama, that deem that the transaction it is still valid. And of those who mention, but even though involve najsh, that they mention of those, Abu Hanifa say it is valid, Malik, Shafi, Ahmed. So they all that it is still a valid transaction. But I mentioned that, as I mentioned, what occurred is kharij, yani al-bay'. What occurred, it is something outside the transaction regarding the shurut al-bay'. They mentioned that Ahmed and others mentioned that also. Some also that the buyer that he have khiyar. That the buyer, if for example, they mentioned that if the increase in the price was very drastic, the item 50 pounds, but it was sold for 300 pounds. That's a big increase. So that's a huge increase. So they said, now if that was the case, then the buyer, in that case, where something that was a huge increase. They mentioned that that goes also what is normal. Then they mentioned that in that case, then the buyer, he has a right of khiyar. So either he can fasakh, can somewhat undo the transaction, return his item and get back his money. That's fasakh. Or he can accept the item, but at still keep the item, but to lower the price that what it was sold, that the item was sold at. So what is considered the more reasonable price. So that's how the view of ulama regarding that, because of the person that he can he cheated that person. So that's the aqwal regarding that type of transaction. Then they mention regarding concerning that of ulama also take concerning that la tanajashu. They see it as a more broader meaning, that it goes regarding business transaction, and also that it is more in relation to any form of the linguistic meaning, al-khida wal-makr wal-hila, where a person somewhat is cheating and deceiving people. That's a more broader meaning, where it is related to a business transaction or outside a transaction. So they see it as that the person he has done is cheating others. So based upon this, it can have that more broader meaning, that the Muslim, that you should not cheat and your brother regarding anything. So that's concerning that they mention regarding of this matter. Then so they said al-makr, that we said generally khida, it is something which is not allowed between a Muslim, as it leads towards ill feelings and treating people unjustly and unfairly. Then they mention regarding except, and also could lead to people being harmed because of this. Then they mention that will makr, that in a sense of makr, of plotting against others, that only concern that it's only allowed in cases regarding al-kuffar al-muharibun. So the kuffar that you and them are at war. So in those cases you can deceive them, trick them, because because in that we said in the case of kuffar, with another word we said muharibun, that you are at war with them, you are at battle with them. So in those times of battle of war, you can somewhat do things to trick your enemy. You can do things to trick your enemy. So you tell them to not make it seem as if you're going north, but then we don't want to go south. So that's concerning that matter. They mentioned regarding concerning with in Islam, that matters regarding al-buyu, business transactions, that of those things that Islam put in place regarding that to make business transaction which is fair and balanced and beneficial for both sides. So things regarding trade and commerce is built on that on that line. With this, that if anything that will, and also to still maintain some form of good relation between both sides. So business is based upon those principles. Then they mention that things will go against those things regarding cheating others, lying, then those things become haram. Wal-ghish. So any form of cheating, deceiving of others, then those things become haram. So regarding concerning al-bay' wa shara, wal-qara, the person buying and selling, renting, these type of services that are provided, then it is based upon the person being honest, sidq, wafa, the person fulfill what they agreed upon, and also things is done free from any form of cheating of others. Any form of cheating of others, then to free the transaction from those things. So they mentioned ulama of the fuqaha that they mentioned regarding al-buyu that have shurut wal arkan. So a business transaction, that there are certain shurut, condition, wal arkan, pillars that are attached to this to make it valid. So if these conditions are fulfilled, then the transaction is a valid transaction. If these conditions, then the person cannot go through with the transaction or make it invalid. So they mention of those general things that were mentioned regarding a business transaction, of those things that are required. They mention one, as-sigha, which is concerning al-ijab wal-qubul. So in a business transaction, then that it should be you offer and an acceptance. It should be an offer and an acceptance. So I said ijab wal-qubul in the sense of the ulama of before would say that in a business transaction, you must say, I'm selling you this thing, and you must say, I'm buying it. Ijab al-qubul. So I said ijab al-qubul, it must be said. Where the buyer would say, or the seller would say, I'm selling you this item. And the buyer would say, I'm buying it from you. But ulama mentioned that it is not that ijab al-qubul in the sense of it being, it must be verbal. That's not the case. It's not something that has to be said verbal. As I mentioned that, like even today's time, that it is something where it goes back to the urf of the people. Where when we're doing trade and commerce, at times you don't need to say anything. But we understand that I'm buying and you're selling me something. And I accept the item. So like in today's time, you go into most stores, or any transaction, because you have these cards. You take up the item off the shelf, you go to the counter, you don't have to speak to anyone. You have to speak to anyone. You take up your item, you go to the cash out or cash in, which one? I said cash in or cash out? Which you say?
Cash out.
Cash out. So you have the cash out now, then you have, before you used to have a person there that you would, a cashier that you interact with. Now today they have replaced most of the individuals, a physical person, with machines. So you go to the cash out and they're just a machine. You put your item, you check it out, you pay and you leave. And you don't have to say anything to anyone. And even today, that you go and even concern. So that's now that's how business transaction is done, general. You buy things online, as we'll discuss so today. So it says no. So ijab al-qubul. So the shahid, the point is ijab al-qubul, as we know it as, that it says it has to be verbal. Is not the case. Because in our time, business transaction, a lot of time it is not verbal. You don't have to say anything. You go in the store, pick up the item, you put your card on the machine, and khalas. So, but overall I mentioned that it shows that you have a siga, which is some form of ijab al-qubul that goes back to the urf of the people, the custom of the people, and what become the prevalent practice of that time or that particular place. Yes, you might still go to certain place in the world where it's still person to person transaction, people to people. But in certain places, now a lot of places, now it is machines and cards. Then the next of those conditions I mentioned, taradi bainahuma. That also that both sides have to agree. The buyer and the seller, they have to be somewhat in agreement. You cannot force a person, so the person both have to give their consent. You cannot force someone to buy something they don't want to sell or to buy. So you cannot force the person to buy something, nor you have to force the person to sell a thing. So the person, the buyer and the seller, both have to give their consent. Give their consent, except in certain exceptions. Where cases where a sale of a thing can take place without getting the consent of the owner of the item. Because you understand, because of maybe that the matter have gone to the court and he has things that he needs to be sold off so as to pay off his debt. So in that case, the judge is the one who's demanding that the person have to sell those things because of the circumstance and situation. So ordinarily though, that requires consent from both the buyer and the seller. No one to be forced into selling or buying that which they don't want. The third of those things they mentioned, أن يكون أهلا للتصرف, that also the person who's doing the transaction, whether buying or selling, that they are people that it is that they are allowed to, that they can get involved in these type of things, tasarruf. They can deal with things. So the person could be like, sound mind, the person of a certain age. So those things also have to be taken in consideration. Now, so you might find a child is 3 years old going into a store to buy a car. They're not going to allow this. Or buy certain things. Now, so of certain things regarding concern, a person should be of those persons who that they allow that they can do certain type of transaction. Then they mentioned that of those things, that the item that is being sold should be one which is mubah. Should be something which is allowed Islamically to be sold. So you cannot be selling something which is haram. You cannot be selling something which is haram. So the item that is being sold, also that item should be one which is allowed to be sold or to be bought. So Islamically, so things that are a person selling alcohol, then that's not allowed in Islam. So that item is not something to be sold. Is not allowed to be sold. Now, so anyone who is involved in selling or buying, then they're involved in something which is haram. They're involved in something which is haram because that item itself is not allowed to be bought, to be sold, nor to be bought. So we said the item itself, the item being sold or being bought, must be something which is halal or allowed to be sold. Then of those conditions I mentioned regarding bay, أن يكون من مالك, that the person selling the item, it should be his property. You cannot sell something which is not yours unless you have been given permission by the owner. So you're acting as a broker on behalf of the person. So because you've been given permission by the owner, so you're acting on their behalf. So you're acting as an agent or a broker or in whatever capacity, but you have to have consent from the owner. So the owner is the one that can sell his item. He cannot sell something that is not yours or without the permission of its owner. Then also the condition the ulama mentioned regarding this matter, that أن يكون مقدور على تسليم, that the thing that is being sold is something that you're able to can deliver that item. So a person wants to sell you something that he doesn't have the ability to hand over or deliver that item. So he must have that ability. He must have that ability that he's able can deliver that item. So the person says, I'm going to sell you a particular fish. I'm going to sell you a fish in the ocean. Which fish? Where's the fish? He doesn't have the fish. He doesn't have a boat. He has nothing. So for you to, you understand, so is the person having the ability that they're able to can deliver that item. So for us, the next verse that I mentioned also, that the item that is being sold or being bought, that it should be known either by way of you have seen the item physically or by way of description. So you have an idea concerning, so you're buying something that, I want to buy something, a person, and he says, I want an item, I'm going to buy something from you. That's the description. So the person has to deliver the item based upon a description that was given to him. You cannot give something which is, other than say, I want a car, a Ford car the person bought, I want which car? A BMW, but the person bought you a Ford. Then no. Because the description is that you wanted a BMW, but the person brought a Ford that was not the description of the item that you asked for. You said you want a car with 2 doors, he bought one with 4 doors. So different in description. So buying things online, now based upon description, it becomes allowed. And it goes to the next thing, that also that the price of the item is known. The price of the item, it is known. So either you ask the person right there, or it is written on the price tag, but you have a means to know there should be a means for you to know the cost or the price of the item. Now, so the person can say, I'm going to sell you something, but I'm not going to tell you the price until after you have accepted the item. Then no. So those are some of the things they mentioned regarding shurut al-bay'. Shurut al-bay'. So that's concerning those matters. So mentioned so of this, that it goes regarding wala tanajashu, that goes against regarding a Muslim, a person intervening regarding a person buying something in trying to increase the cost, the price of that item. So that's concerning of those matters regarding, so it goes against, so that's the other thing that is not allowed, as we had mentioned before. Then the next that he mentioned, the hadith, what he mentioned next, wala tabaghadu, that's the next one. So that's the next of those things to be discussed. So of those things that the Prophet ﷺ that is warning the Muslim that not to fall into things that will bring about between yourself al-bughd, baghdha, dislike, hatred, malice between yourselves. So al-bughd is something which is that goes back to mahabba, goes back to the heart, which is opposite mahabba. So the person will start to have a dislike towards his brother, That they mentioned regarding concern that is as they have mentioned that an-nahi an tabaghud, that having dislike between yourself in this hadith concerning that muqayyid bi tabaghud fi min ajli ad-dunya, is in relation to this tabaghud that you should not have, is regarding matters of the dunya. So but the dunya is now getting between, is getting between you and your brother, and you start to have dislike and hatred and malice between yourselves because of dunya matters. So they mentioned regarding concern tabaghud between the believers, that on dunya matter, then it is not with certain rules in place, but also at the tabaghud that also could be in matters regarding things of the deen. So the believers may have one to another dislike towards each other because of min ajli ad-deen, due to matters of the deen. So before we go, so of those matters that they mentioned, so in the sense of, it could have cases where having dislike towards each other, it is haram, and cases where it is what? Halal, valid. Nam. So they mentioned regarding concerning cases that is considered to be valid, where a Muslim may have dislike towards another Muslim. So of those things, they said overall that you may have a dislike towards a person, find that no, that person is a Muslim, but then he went back into kufr or shirk. Then you have a valid reason to have a dislike for that person. That's a genuine reason to have a dislike towards that person who was a Muslim. Then he went into apostasy, murtadda, irtadda in Islam. So in that case, you have a legitimate reason to have dislike towards that person, because that person have left the deen of Islam. So that's legitimate and valid. So that would be, said, the pinnacle, that having dislike because the person fell into kufr, fell into kufr. Then of others that are said to be valid reason to dislike a Muslim because of matter of the deen, the person falling into bid'ah. So a Muslim who fall into bid'ah, you dislike him for the bid'ah that he fell into, because he combined between what? Iman wal al-bid'ah. Because now he has things of Iman, so you have to like him for those things of Iman and accept him for those things of Iman. But the things of bid'ah, then you hate him for the things of the bid'ah that he fell into. It's restricted to the things of the bid'ah that he fell into. So bid'ah, is a legitimate reason to have a dislike to the Muslim, who said, for those things of bid'ah. Also things of dalal wal khurafat, things that contradicts Islam, ma'asi. So the person that you may dislike him or her, that Muslim, because of them falling into waquf al-ma'asi, that they're falling into sins. So you hate them for the sins that they're involved in. So it's not 100% that you hate them. You hate them based upon the ma'asi that they're involved in. And went and also to mention was dhunub, ma'asi was dhunub, and things of mukhalafat al-Islam. Also you can hate a valid reason, the person tark, which is a ma'asi, tark al-wajibat. The person leaving away thing which is wajib. Also of those things that becomes of valid of reasons that dislike a person of ta'assub ila al-madha'ib. That those who are muta'assiba, mufarrita, those people go over the board regarding following a madhab, where they see that anyone who does not, they see like an enemy. To the extent that even between themselves, the person who is the person who's Hanafi, have a dislike towards the Maliki, wal Shafi'i, wal Hanabila, because they're not on his madhab. And see his madhab as if it is the only truth, the only haqq. So everything in it I will accept, even if I know that something is incorrect and can be found with others. I'll still hold to my madhab. Then you can hate a person for that type of approach. So the person of the type of, that methodology, that approach regarding madhaib al-fiqhiyah, that he owes to his madhab, and you understand, see his madhab as the only haqq. And especially that they'll go harsh against those people who they said who don't follow madhab, in the sense of you do not blindly follow a particular madhab. Then that is something, a legitimate reason to hate a person for having that type of ta'assub. And also the person of ta'assub ila jama'at, that I'm from a different type, the person who aligned to a particular faraq or jama'at, bid'iyya. So the person who's ikhwani, tablighi, sufi, muta'assib ila mashayikh. This is my sheikh. Everything, I understand, I would support my sheikh in everything. Then those type of ta'assub is haram. And you can dislike a person who have that type of approach. So if that jama'ah, that group in the bid'ah wal khurafat, that they have, then you have a legitimate reason to dislike the person for those things. So those are legitimate reason to dislike a person who's a Muslim because he falls into those things. Clear, ikhwan? Aywa. Then the next of the mentions that's concerning that legitimate cases of bughd al-Muslim li Muslim. Then you have case regarding case that is la yusah, that is not valid for a Muslim. That said, because we said the hadith is discussing things regarding a dunyawiyah. So regarding concerning we have those things of the dunya that concerning they mentioned it, that is the person falling to asbab al-bughd. So avoiding things that will bring between you and your brother this type of dislike between yourself. So of things of the dunyawiyah that are they mentioned, of those things that are not valid reason to dislike a Muslim and to bring about malice between a Muslim, that based upon they mention looks and appearance. Looks and appearance. That person, he look a certain way, I don't like how he looks. him too fat, him too slim, him too this, based upon those things of no bearing, then those are la yajuz. Also, they mentioned that al-bughd, that one should avoid between a mother and brother, that things that because of woman. I want to marry her, but he wants to understand. So it becomes a matter concerning female or opposite. That sister don't like that sister because, as I says, no, she want this man or him want this particular woman. You understand? So because if he doesn't get her, then he doesn't like no one who gets her. He has a problem with anyone who gets her. Or she have a problem with any woman who gets that man because she wants him. So because of these type of thing, dunyawiyah. Then also al-mal. People start off, you understand, a thing between themselves because of mal. I start to hate the person because of wealth. He has too much money, doesn't have too much money. You understand? So things of wealth is house size, is the type of car, try to measure the person based upon things of the dunya. So the person who doesn't, fulfill your standards, he's not a millionaire, then I have a problem with him. He's lazy. He's not a person, you understand, who he's a go-getter. He has no ambition because he's not trying to, because he doesn't have a million. Then that's not valid. Allah Mustan, there's a person, don't need to mention no one name, and I wouldn't mention their name at all, even, that this person used to be in the dawah scene, and maybe still online, but now they're like, we call it still online. But before, they used to be about, online, supposed to be about dawah. Now their dawah online is about what? Just about money. At dunya, millionaire club, this type of thing is all about money. You understand? And a person used to be in dawah and said, no, for a person to understand, so to find a person who used to be in dawah and you think, understand the dawah in calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to the Prophet of Islam, then the person now focus just about dunya. Then sure that something really either something went wrong, change in their life, or the person was upon hawa from the start of things. Because if a person go from that level to the next level, they show that something is seriously wrong. Seriously wrong. Now, with a personal emphasis is all about making the money. Then show that something was wrong. If the person used to be a part of dawah, it shows something is wrong. Now, as I mentioned in a person, the person of ilm, that the facade of a person, the worst thing is that the facade of a person of ilm either, or the people involved there, that they become corrupt, either because of ittiba al-hawa, that they follow their desire, or sul fahm, or they have a misunderstanding of Islam. The corruption of people who pose themselves as people of ilm, that the problem that come with them, you understand, either they become corrupt because of what we said, sul fahm, they have a misunderstanding. So the person might have good intention, but he has a misunderstanding of Islam, so he gives misinformation. But he seems genuine, but he didn't understand. But but he becomes a problem because the information that is being passed is incorrect. Then the second case is the person who follows his desires. The one who follow his desires. So anything you understand. So those are the ones you have to be. That I mentioned the corruption of the alim or the person who seems to be upon ilm. That the corruption from them it comes through those two ways. So where we at? We said so other ways regarding things of the dunya where people kind of somewhat start to have a dislike towards each other and said brothers, things regarding fame, things of fame. So people want fame, people want to be known, people want to be popular. So the person because of this that they want to have this fame and what they know what comes with fame. So always matter to know with fame is what comes with it. When you're known, you're popular, is the thing that comes with it. So some people want to maintain this and protect this. So you have him said again, online you have a particular person that from the States, that if anyone tried to criticize him online, he'll complain to, he call those people, WhatsApp, YouTube, he'll complain to them. So anyone even mention his name, or if you maybe try to, you understand, something, a person, what we discussed, the person said something wrong, and you want to correct it. But first you want to say, you want to show that, this is what he said, what was said by the person, so you can correct it. If you put you understand, anything from him, he will sue you for that. Because you're using of his property without his permission. So either complain to, we call it, YouTube, to get to pull that thing down, or he'll contact his lawyers to contact you. So it's that this person's a da'i, supposed to be. But they have an enterprise that's raking money. And they travel. So they can somewhat to protect this fame. You understand? They have these things in place. Fala mustan. So I said, fame can be also of those things that that can create al-baghdha between each other. We find a person who has the fame, or we may look at others, and also people who look at him and want also to take his position. Also things we said, they have other things that also sometimes create baghdha between people that are not valid. Cultural differences, ethnicity. That you cannot marry into my family because you're not from my people. You're not from my culture. So sometimes these things come, we find that people, they have an attitude towards others because of culture. We are Muslim. He will talk to you, speak to you, give you salam, but when it comes to getting too close into that family, then no, you're not from my culture, so no, you can't be a part of us. So you have those things that sometimes, you understand, people sometimes that make you understand these things required that can create, where if you're married to those type of people, then we'll cut you off. You understand? You'll be cut off from our family, we'll disown you. So you show that type of, what's that, malice that they have towards those people, or dislike towards those people. Fallah musta'an. And also of those things that, so you find those things that are there. Degrees, even today time you find a person regarding your level of education. That a person might have a issue regarding that. I only deal with people who, that, you understand, that you have a degree. If you don't have a degree, then you're not in my class. You're not my type of people. So you have all these things that are there. So, and also of those ones, power and authority. We find that at times this become a reason and a root regarding people having malice between themselves. Power, being in control. You understand? The person of reference. So all of this, it occurs. All of these things, you understand? So baghdha at times occur. I said even between people of ilm. That might have baghdha because of their ilm. You understand? Why I'm not the reference for the people. Why people are not coming to my lessons. Why this, why that. So you find that this type of baghdha, this hatred sometimes come between, even says people are du'at. For things of the dunya. Things of the dunya. So I said, no, these are things that we have to be, you understand, that are things that are not legitimate reasons for us to have malice and dislike towards each other. Money and those things. So these are things that we have to be careful regarding, that these are things of the dunya. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned, so I will discuss the next lesson. These are mentioned that, so those are asbab, or things that they all mention, asbab, that can create concerning people having dislike to each other. And of those things that are general, that of those things of asbab, of ghadab, regarding a person that comes natural with people. You understand? A person treating you unjustly and unfairly, al-dhulm. That people, if they are treated unjustly and unfairly, then this also could be a reason where people start to have dislike towards each other. Also people who are prejudiced towards others, color, looks, and the likes. Also people who, an-namima wal-ghiba, that is create also, that these are asbab, reason of people having baghdha, dislike towards each other. Person that they backbite you, that they curse, they slander you, that they harm you physically, unjustly and unfairly, then these things create baghdha. These things, it create malice between the people. So the Muslim that don't have the hukuk that we try our best to fulfill. So they mentioned that these are things regarding al-baghdha. But the Prophet Islam want to caution the Muslim against these things, that the nahi, that what is forbidden is that baghdha comes between us based upon things that are not legitimate. Things that are not legitimate. Then they mentioned the third. They mentioned the absence of baghdha sometimes that they occur, especially in our times, occur then and still occur. But said ta'assub ila al-ashkhas. Ta'assub ila ashkhas. Or to the extent taqdis al-ashkhas, where people somewhat they have this type of fanatic love towards others. Over the top love towards others. As if you can somewhat have that over reverence towards others, and this over respect for others. So it says, so when you see those things regarding people who are held in high place, head of states, like I said, leaders, where people sometimes go over the top regarding their reverence towards them. Second, people of salah, people are said to be righteous. People sometimes go over the top regarding how they revere them because of what of their right, of their piety. And third, people of ilm. People of ilm, that alim fulan. So the reverence that you have sometimes go over the top. Anything he says, I accept. And I will not challenge. I will never disagree with him. And anyone who disagree with him, I have a problem with you. Then that becomes a problem. So this type of reverence towards others that become fanatic. Reverence towards others will become, you understand, then one have to be, you understand, those things, one have to be cautious. If you don't love my sheikh, I don't love you. And I'll hate you because you disagree with him. Or that person said to be righteous. So these are the things that we have to be careful of regarding, over the top regarding, that in a sense the person, the leader, you describe in a way which is, he doesn't possess those description. So as everyone's going to someone to see him in the light, to see him the way you see him. Even though the way that you see him, it is something which is not realistic. It's not real. So those are the things you have to be mindful regarding, that, going over the top regarding ashkhas. Going over the top regarding ashkhas. And so we find through the Islamic history that baghdha, based upon, we said even madhab al-arba, but we have today ta'assub, this fanatic adherence towards a particular madhab, then that have led to also baghdha between the Muslim, baghdha between the Muslim, fala mustan. Then he mentioned, so after that one, he mentioned what comes next, wala tadabaru. Then he mentioned la tadabaru as being another of those in the Prophet Islam that he warned against. Wala tadabaru, that Muslim not to, that I mentioned concerning tadabur, khusuma wal al-hajar. So al-tadabur, I mentioned tadabur, to turn your back on someone. To turn your back to someone. So to give the person your back. So I mentioned what is intended regarding mukhasama, that you have a dispute between your brother. So can somewhat you turn away from him, you leave him, abandon your brother. And also hujran, and also for you to boycott your brother. So boycotting of your brother. So turning away from your brother, turning away. They mentioned tabariya muqata'a, that you're gonna break that relation between your brother, then to save that relation between you and your brother. So breaking that relation between yourself and your brother. So they mentioned that is what is intended by this particular statement. Mentioned wala tadabaru. So they mentioned regarding concerning to know that this, with the Prophet said that also this for concerning that al mukhasama wal al hajar, boycotting of your brother, abandoning of your brother, avoiding your brother. You understand that in generally, as a general rule regarding things of the dunya, it should not exceed 3 days. So regarding hajar, abandoning your brother, avoiding your brother, should not exceed 3 days regarding things of the dunya. As for things of the deen, legitimate things of the deen, then there's no limits until the person come back to the haqq. So they mentioned regarding concern that the Prophet mentioned regarding that, not turn away from your brother. For more than 3 dimensions, la yuhil al-Muslim, is not permissible for a Muslim, and yahjar akhahu, for him to boycott his brother, fawqa thalath, more than 3 days. Yaltaqiyan, that both meet each other, وَيُسِدْ هَذَا, when that turn from that one turn away, وَيُسِدْ هَذَا, and that one turn away from his brother, وَخَيْرُهُمَا, and the better of the two, الَّذِي يَبْدَهُ بِالسَّلَامِ, the better of the two is the one who offered the salam first. So the Prophet mentioned regarding to the hadith, they mentioned the Bukhari and Muslim. So the Prophet ﷺ in this hadith, that he mentioned that لا يحل, is not allowed for a Muslim and yahjar akhahu fawqa thalath, that for him to abandon his brother for more than 3 days regarding things of the dunya. Regarding things of the dunya. So the person entered the masjid, you put your shoes down, and someone took your shoe and took the wrong shoe, took your shoe, thinking it is his shoe. But then he brought it back the next day. But you're upset because you had to walk home without shoe. Now, you have to go home without shoe. So you're upset. Now, but a person did it by mistake. And you brought it back the next day. But you're still upset because of what you had to go through. You understand? You should not allow that feeling. You understand? So he said, no, I'm not going to talk to his brother. Give me, take my shoe, take your shoe and just walk away. Turn your back and just leave him there, standing. Don't hear anything from him. You left him there. But you should not allow that feeling and that treatment towards him to exceed 3 days. Because the things of the dunya should not exceed 3 days. Now, so things of the dunya, as I mentioned, لا يحل المسلم, it's not allowed for the Muslim, and يحجر أخاه فوق ثلاث, that it should not exceed 3 days. Now, so certain ulama mentioned that's regarding things of the dunya, things of the dunya. As for things that was said, diniya, that goes back to the core of the religion. Now, that of those things of the deen, then hajar, what I referred concerning hajar, that boycotting al-bidah wal ma'asi, then this is something that may exceed 3 days. It doesn't. This hadith is not in relation to, or mentioned, the hadith concerned is that they are not allowed to boycott your brother for more than 3 days. Things of the dunya. As for things related to the deen, then there's no time fixed to it. It could go for years. It could go to the person even die. Now, so they mention regarding concerning so on those matters, that there's no time that is set until the person, he comes back to that which is correct. He may tawbah or come back to that which is correct, leave away his bidah or leave away his ma'asi and try to be upright, then you can reestablish that relationship with that person. But while they're involved in the bidah or they're involved in that ma'asi that you know of, then you can avoid them. Naam. So so next, but I mentioned that so the Prophet so I mentioned that there's in things of dunya should not exceed 3 days. But if it was to be resolved in 1 day, there's no harm. You think of the dunya, it doesn't mean that you're old to your brother for the 3 days. If you can resolve it less than 3 days, alhamdulillah. So as soon as you're able, you do so. So the matter being resolved, then immediately you rebuild that relationship or open that relationship with your brother. So the ulama mentioned that to end that type of al-hajar, boycotting of your brother, by way of giving the salam, which is if he gives you salam and you return and you give it back, then it shows that the matter has been squashed, has been resolved. So the Prophet mentioned, yaltaqiyan, if they both meet, then I mention, wa khayruhuma alladhi yabda bis salam. The best of them is the one who gives the salam. So either if you give him the salam and you respond, it shows that he's over it. But if you give him a salam and there's no response, that means that he's not over it.
Well, if he responds but he's not over it.
And if he responds, then you're judged by that which is apparent. Because they give the salam, then you take that as it's a sign that he's over it, unless other things manifest. With me? So the person might give the salam in a way that you see that it still seems tense. Still seems somewhat tense. So you just can understand. So if you see him again, still give him salam unless you see that, and you see that unless you see other things manifest from them. Because if you give him the salam, but he give you back salam, but it seems tense, take that as something to build on. Unless there's other things that manifest. Naam? Then they mentioned regarding concern that the ulama mentioned regarding that al-hajar that can also come to end by way of either by way of giving of the salam with a person. They mentioned of those ones that they mentioned that if it is between a person who's ajnabiyya, that like not family related, not within your family, then by giving the salam, then that's a sign, that's an indication, that's a sign that things have somewhat been resolved. And that's it, to build from there. But if the person, a family member, then also giving the salam, but also you try to rebuild that relationship because you're family members. So with a person who's a stranger, is by just generally talking to the person, and that's sufficient. But as for a family member, then it's trying to rebuild that relationship and mawadda that you're supposed to have as family members. That's a part of stopping the hajar, the boycotting between family members. So salam with other things. Try to rekindle, rebuild that relationship. Some more effort to be made in trying to rebuild that relationship. As for strangers, so the family, you might say, okay, Assalamu alaikum, and you give them a gift as a family member to soften their heart. Okay, tomorrow, can you come by my house for dinner? You understand? We can sit down and bring your family over and we'll sit as a family again, because before we kind of somewhat, that was broken. So that's a way of salam, but and other things to rebuild that relationship as family members. As for the person who's a non-family, Assalamu alaikum, you don't have to give him a gift. That's not, you understand? Assalamu alaikum, just talk to him and just take it from there. With me? So that's concerning us, awsam. So they mentioned that wujub, silat al-rahim, with family members, because that is also wajib, to have good ties with family. So that was broken, that needs to be repaired. So they mentioned that so with al-hajar, we said in al-hajar that it's applied to al-ma'asi, people involved in doing of sins that you're aware of, or apparent, or you're aware of that you're involved in those sort of things. You can make hajar of them because of those sins. We can somewhat to break a relationship. So, and also people of bidah. So they mentioned regarding concern, so of the things regarding that, they mentioned that al-hajar, al-bidah, wal-ma'asi, it have conditions. So when a person wish to boycott a person of bidah or a person of ma'asi, then there's certain condition that you should ensure those things are in place. So they mention of those things, they mentioned tahaqquq min al-bidah wal-ma'asi. So the first of those things, we want to make hajar. So a person, you want to make hajar to boycott another. And matters regarding deen matters, or matters of the person involved in ma'asi, sins. Then one, what we said the first one is tahaqquq min al-bidah. First, to ensure that the person is involved in that bidah or that ma'asi. To ensure, first, to verify that that person is involved in that bidah or have that bidah with them. Or the person is involved in that ma'asi. So to ensure, so it's yajib, so become wajib upon you to verify, is the person involved in that sin, or is that person carrying out that bidah, or upon that bidah. So that's the first of those things. The second dimension, ithbat annahu bidah. So the next thing is to ithbat al-bidah or ma'asi, that's no, that you have to ensure that that act that you're claiming to be a bidah or ma'asi is actually a bidah or ma'asi, with either ittifaq of the ulama or text that is sarih. That thing which is ma'asi, which is, you understand, more easier, but regarding things of bidah, that bidah is something which is agreed upon between the ulama, or the majority is upon it, not a thing that is a bidah which is ijtihad from a particular alim. But others may not agree with that. Ijtihad, he says a bidah, he says not a bidah. So, what we said the second one is ithbat. That thing is actually an act of bidah. Or that thing is an act of ma'asi, to ensure. So the act itself, verify that the act is actually deemed to be one which is a bidah, or one which is deemed to be a sin. Then the next of the things, so the ulama who concerned that al-bidah, that is those things concerned, those act of al-hajar, al-mubtada, on those things which is agreed upon, or majority, because between Ahl Sunnah. Then also, of those things that they mentioned, of those who mentioned an-nasiha qabla al-hajar, of those who mention an-nasiha qabla al-hajar, that if you want to make hajar of the person, that of those who mentioned that, try to offer the person some type of nasiha or clarity, bayan. So for the person to understand that what they're doing, maybe the person upon something that for them they are not aware that it's actual act of bidah, an act of ma'asi. They go to the masjid, that their local masjid, and they see the imam doing a particular thing, and they're new to Islam. So they go to the local masjid, or they go to Masjid A, and a person new to Islam, in whatever way that they're new to Islam, and they see that the imam and the people of that masjid doing a particular action. So they see it as every day I come and I pray in a masjid, I see them doing that same thing. Or that's the particular thing. So he deemed that to be from Islam, because my local masjid, they all do it. Or it's being done in a masjid by the imam and many others. So he can somewhat adopt it, do the act, thinking it's from Islam. So as we said that, and the thought is to give nasiha wal bayan to the person, because he may do something which is, he wasn't himself clear, unaware. But because he saw others doing it, he did it. Then, but if the clarity came, when the clarity, to be able to clarify the matter with dalil and what comes with it, then a person might have said, okay, it was an error. If one advised the person, it was by way of error, misunderstanding. Or he thought one of those people, but in the actual fact what they're doing is incorrect. So, as we mentioned, that the person might need nasiha or bayan regarding that matter. Also, the thing I mentioned, miqdar al-hajar. So also that put in perspective matters regarding how to quantify that hajar. You're going to boycott that person. To what extent? So it's based upon that there's a need. Based upon that it will serve a purpose. There's a need. The person might be doing a bidah. That is, which one? A bidah. Small. A small bidah.
Wiping your face off to make dua.
Okay. Alright then. All that to be small. Okay. So the person that after salat, that the tasbih beads. Tasbih beads, he does it. Or sometimes you wipe his face after his dua. So after make his dua, he wipe his face. Or you have the tasbih bead, that dhikr bead that you use after salat. Is that a major bidah? Or is it a small bidah? Or a medium-sized bidah? You get the picture?
No.
You understand? So you, the person, able can put in perspective that bidah. What's the miqdar? Is it of the major things of bidah? It's a medium-sized, medium-level bidah? Is it as minor? Where does it lies? If you want to put a scale. So the person having that fiqh understanding, is it something which is, so you have to know how to approach that matter and that person, something which is a major or it's a minor, then you know to put things in perspective. So knowing the miqdar, the level of that bidah, knowing the level of that, because not all bidah is the same. Not all bidah is the same. Now, so the person also having, and to see, is this require hajar or it doesn't? Does this require hajar or it doesn't? Then also they mention تحقق المصالح والمفاسد or مراعاة تحقق المصالح, that also the person that he has to take into consideration regarding is making hajar, that what will be the outcome? What will it achieve? Will it make that person go realize what he's doing is wrong and change, or it will not? It may push him out, even push the person further. So would it be something that will bring about benefit or be more harmful? The person living in a country, majority are non-Muslim. Few Muslims in their locality. But you're going to make hajj of that person and ban him from the masjid. Where's he going to go? You with me? So taking into consideration to know that the consequence of this, what impact it will have on that person. Would it actually make the person to wake up? Or the person is one of the kibar of those people, and you are the person who you are not known by no one, and you make hajj of that person. He doesn't even, you don't exist in his world. Only, you understand, he only exists in your world, but he doesn't. But for you don't exist in his world. So for you, whatever you do is of no consequence. So he's the big sheikh, and he's the imam of a huge masjid placed by the state. But he said, no, I'm going to make hajj of that person. I'm going to pray in a back alley masjid. The person said, but thousands of people already praying to him. He doesn't care about you, who no one knows you. You with me? You're unknown. He's famous. He has following. So you saying I'm making hajar, you understand, in certain circumstances, it may not make an impact. And in some cases, you have to make hajar. In certain cases, as we'll discuss, so is taking certain things into consideration. I'm saying if you make hajar, so as I said, to avoid his bidah, that's for you, but as for him, you don't exist in his world. So But generally mentioned that Murat, that person will make hajr of the masajid. You have in London, so in your city, there's 2 masjid upon the sunnah. There are only 2 masjid. But there's 20 other masajid in your city. So there's 22 masajid in your city. 2 upon the sunnah. But you hold that those 2 upon the sunnah, they're not to the sunnah that I hold to. They're not to my expectation. So I'm not going to pray with them. But you used to pray with them. So you start praying with them. Where are you going to go? To the other 22, which is known to be Masjid of Ailil Mukhalifin. They are known to be gone. They are something else completely. That ordinarily you would pray with them. But now the masjid you used to pray with the 2 masjid that is there. Now you have made hajr of them. Where are you going to pray? So either you're praying at home and don't pray in the masajid at all. And you find people like that. So, going to the masjid for you know, you have made hajj of the masajid completely. And even the salah, fil jama'ah, even Jummah sometimes is a problem. Because you have made hajj of the 2 that is there, plus the other 20 that you already made hajj of them. And even some cases go to the worst of them. So, instead, Murat, al-masalih, wal-mafasid, the benefits and the negatives, you have to weigh those things up. You have to weigh those things up. So, and also they mention, lastly will end, Adam itibal hawa. In al-hajr, you cannot be following your desires. It cannot be based upon desires. I want to make hajr of you because you don't attend my masjid. And I make hajr of you because you're not a part of my jama'ah. So it must not be based upon hawa, not be upon a person's desire, vain desire. So that's concerning certain things the person has to take into consideration regarding al-hajr. Now the main thing regarding what's the benefit that you're trying to achieve. So those are some things that an other thing, but of those things to take into consideration. And after other thing that I mentioned regarding al-hajr, that al-hajr yani anwa. It comes in different ways, different forms of hajr, al-bid'ah wal ma'asi. So the person regarding al-hajr, al-bid'ah ma'asi, that person because of them involved in bid'ah, that you might make hajr of them, you might boycott that individual. So it means that at times, you do not pray in a particular masjid because the imam from Ahli Bidah. So you don't pray behind him. Because he's from Ahli Bidah. But that, when you can pray in other masajid. Okay, you don't want to find a certain situation, you have abandoned all the masajid. And you don't pray in any masjid. So you look to the best that is available. Or just go in and pray your salat and you leave. Taib. But it may mean regarding hajr, as-salat khalfa sahib al-bidah. That not praying behind a person of bidah. And the masajid of ahli bidah. Nam also may mean adam as-salam, wa radd as-salam. Also of the anwa of ways of implementing al-hajr, it may mean not giving a person salam. You see a Muslim, but upon bidah. Nam, and the hajr, the boycotting now comes in the form of, I don't give you salam. And you find also, the person may give you salam and you do not respond to the salam. So the Prophet ﷺ kind of somewhat implemented this regarding of those who takhallaf an Tabuk. Nam, we're even also not speaking to them, to that person. You do not speak to that person at all. Also it comes in a form regarding Adam al-Zawaj, minhum, that you don't marry into those people. Because the people from Al-Ahli Bidah, that family, they have a bunch of girls, but their daughters are known to be, that family are known to be from the Khawarij. They're all on that type of mindset. Then you don't marry into them. Don't marry into them. Then also, that Adam talaq ilm minhum, that also in the form of not taking knowledge from them. That sheikh have some ilm, but because he's from Ahli Bidah, then I don't take knowledge from him. Because of others. There's other option from Ahl Sunnah. So those are ways regarding the majalis, not to sit in their general majalis, not to sit with them and laugh with them and those type of things. So you avoid them on that in those ways. Also of ways الرد على مخالف وأهل بدعة, that also refuting أهل بدعة والمخالف, that you may refute the people of bid'ah. We can even mention them by name. So in refuting, to the extent where at times that you have to mention them by name, call out them by name. So refutation can come by way of you have to call names so people know who you're speaking of. So it can come in that format or by way of writing of books. So it comes in, as we said, these different ways. It can manifest in these different ways. So that inshallah ta'ala will end there regarding this matter. وبالله تعالى توفيق وهادي إلى السبيل والآخرة والحمد لله آمين. Any questions regarding what we said?
So I was saying, what's the importance of applying all the points you just mentioned? Because some people, they'll play it down. They'll play it down like bid is a minor thing. Like, how do we approach those people who think bid is a minor thing? Let's agree on this and let's agree on that.
Let's
bid that aside.
Hey, put that aside for now.
Muslims that we agree on more and we disagree on less.
And the purpose and the aim of that is the preservation of Islam.
Yeah.
So the end is the preservation of Islam and how it is applied. So anything that disrupt this as how Islam is applied and also how it is understood, as I said there, to preserve the beauty and the purity of the deen, where nothing that enters into that Islam that is not from it. So it means that you find us amongst the Muslim, those who are misrepresenting the religion, then that needs to be tackled. Then that needs to be challenged. So I said the goal of it is the preservation of the deen. Until those people come back to the original, you understand, then those things need to be dealt with. You understand? Until the person, you understand, come back to what the deen actually represents and leave those things of bid'ah wal khurafat, then those things can't be ignored. Until the person come back to the truth at the end, we're all following the haqq. And so the batil needs to be challenged. Aywa.
In terms of if you're coming into frequent contact with Muslims who you know do not practice, so for example they don't pray their salah, and you've decided that not out of maybe hajr, but in the sense that because you don't want to give salam to people who do not pray the first salah, in terms of that they may be taken out before Islam, so giving them salam may not be valid. But in that case, should you keep investigating that person just in case they may start, because you don't know their specific circumstances, so if they start praying your salah and you're still not giving them salam, then obviously then you're violating the rights of Muslims.
From what I understand, that if the person that stop praying and then start praying, then the person deserving of salam as something to start with. So the person that you're hajar, that you have boycotted that person because of, we said it was related to, for example, him not practicing Islam. Starting with concern the salat. The fact that they have now started the salat, then we said now you can rekindle that relationship so as to help them to grow.
So if you don't know, you may not know about that. So is it?
You must say you rule upon. That's the investigation means you always question, then it may be a lot. You understand? So you're based upon you do things based upon what you know at the moment, without per se trying to overly do it. You with me? Hey,
When we speak about previously about specific institutions for specific roles in society, when it comes down to the you know, the Muslims' affairs, i.e., you know, you have judges to deal with specific Islamic things and there's specific bodies for that. Is when it comes down to the topic we're talking about in refuting people and pointing out people, is there anything where this is valid where it's not for everybody to do, and it's just for a specific
group.
to do? So
Hey.
it preserves the communities of the Muslims. Because if it was something that everyone should be doing, or you boycott, you refute, everyone should be refuting, and they don't have the, you know, the ability, then is there anything where it says that?
If the Jan concern those matters that goes back to people of ilm. You understand? Concerned with all the condition and all those things that regarding boycotting of others. You understand that then it's best that a person consult the people of ilm regarding concerning those matters. So you don't have a certain fawda. Yeah, but there's confusion. Everyone just doing their own thing. So the person need to go back to people of ilm. You understand? Consult the ulama regarding, for example, the person have a case. You understand? Consult the ulama, the people of ilm regarding, is this, you understand, advise me regarding how best to approach this matter. And then see as to what they say. And sometimes at times that he said, consult more than one alim to get different perspective. You understand? So because he said, a person become fix themselves fixated to a particular person. You understand that, all my affairs regarding this matter, I'm going to go back to Sheikh Fulan. You understand? So sometimes it's best that a person discuss with more than one individual among the people of ilm to get different perspective regarding the matter, then go with either the majority, you understand, or the one that he believes that is given the more soundest approach regarding how to mitigate that matter. You understand? But for the general mass of the people, including, you understand, that those matters go back to the ulama and to hear what they have to say regarding those cases.
In the same line, some of the brothers that come to the masjid and they have acrid smell, like very strong smell. Maybe they just finished smoking cigarette and they've been advised quite a few times. Can you basically when you want to pray, can you kind of say, okay, make ajr from the person physically? You give him salam, but I don't want to pray beside you because brother, you have a terrible smell when you're praying. I can't have kushu.
That's legitimate. The person said that the Prophet is concerned is that he warns regarding that la taqarrabanna al masajid, that the person that comes to the masjid regarding a certain type of smell. Yes, so the person have certain type of foul smell or smell that that's a bit strong, overbearing. You understand that you're not involving maybe haram. Then for you to, you understand, not to pray beside them, then that's valid. Yeah, that's valid. No, because I'm based upon the question that he's saying to that. Yeah, I'm based upon his question. You understand? Then the person said, so you have cases of the person can be advised privately. You understand regarding the situation, and also the case of the person also who may position himself away from them. So depending on what the person thinks is the best approach, you understand, they use what as for the based upon a question. That if that smell is there and it is, you understand, there, then to pray elsewhere, then that's not a problem. Because the person that ended regarding your salat, you know that in your salat is regarding your khushu in your salah. And so if that may affect your khushu in salat, and you know it's there, because you understand, then you pray somewhere, pray where you believe that you might find more khushu. Now that say love for your brother, say that's generally understand. But I said that but he's doing something which is harmful to you.
If you move, someone else has to deal with it.
And that's not that person. Now that some people said, as for you, said, so look at you do what you think is best. If you think that is best is to stay there, you understand, or to go, then you have to make that, you understand, how you think is best to approach a situation. But there's no harm for you to go elsewhere. But if you choose to stay, then that's a choice that you have to make and know the consequence.
defend your faith.